Hello and welcome back. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can use the Canvas assignment tool to promote creativity for your students and to give them flexible options to show their understanding. So in the past with It's Learning, our former LMS, the assignment tool had lots of great options for students. You could add audio and video, pictures, links, text, images, Google attachments. You have all of those things you can also do on Canvas, and it's very easy to build. There's even more options you have in terms of how you can provide feedback to students, and you can add rubrics onto assignments for fast, efficient scoring. But I'm going to save that for another tip just because that's a little bit lengthier of a video that would be. So to start building an assignment, it's helpful if you first go into a course on Canvas and you can get there from your dashboard. I'm going to toggle back and forth between the secondary view in Canvas and the elementary view. So if I'm in the secondary view on Canvas, I can start building assignments in a couple of different ways. If I am actively building a module and the next thing I want to add to my module is an assignment, I can start building it from scratch. In a module, if I click the plus button on assignment is usually what it toggles to first, I'll just click create new and give it a name, and then I can select it from there and start building. If I am working ahead and maybe I'm not building this in a module, but I'm going to add it to a module later, if I'm over here on the left-hand side on my course navigation menu, and if this is ever hidden, click the three dot button. I'm going to select assignments and the little plus assignment button that pops up. This is also another way that I can start building an assignment. There are groups for assignments here, and that's really just for you to sort through the different assignment types that you have. That's just something that we can talk more later about down the road as we get PowerSchool integration going. But I'll have to give my assignment a name, and then I have this field here I have this field here to start adding my instructions, and I have that full rich content editor, aka the RCE, to add all types of media here for my students if I need to. Something else that's really helpful to know is that if you are an elementary teacher, it's also really easy to start building an assignment. If I go to my elementary course here and I go to modules, I can start adding assignments to my modules within the module itself. If I click the plus button, assignment, create new, give it a name. But if I want to just go to the assignments page in general, which will show all of the existing assignments in my course, I'll click manage subject, assignments, and then I can also start building assignments from here. I'll click the little plus assignment button in the corner, and I can start making it right there. So super easy, awesome, flexible options there as well. It looks the same as the secondary when you get to this view. All right. So when I am building my assignment, I'll have all my details and things here. Mastery Pass is something else that we can set up. It basically just allows you to look at student performance over time with a little bit more data and analytics and charts. But for now, we're just going to look at some of the basic features of an assignment. So to start building, you will have to give it a title, and you also have to give a due date on your assignment. And reason being for that is for an assignment to pop up on the calendar and to show up as a to-do list item for students, it has to have a date. So this is just really helpful for giving students executive functioning supports as well. So for this assignment, we're going to call this my sample board training. Give it a name. I have all of these options here. I also have this rich text editor, so if I want to have a YouTube video here, I could easily do that. I can have math equations, I can have Google Drive files, whatever have you. If you're wanting to add a Google Drive file here, and it's really one that you just want students to view, but it's not one that you want them to have a copy made for them, this is where you want to do that. So if I click the Drive button here, I can go through, select a file from my Google Drive, and it embeds it right through here like it does when we build a page on Canvas and we add Google Drive files elsewhere. So this is just helpful for really communicating that as a resource to students. Again, I have the accessibility checker here. I can go into full screen mode, give myself a little bit more or less space to work with. Right here is where you can configure points for the assignment. When you build an assignment on Canvas, if you plan on attaching a rubric to the assignment, I usually leave this points part blank because when I go through and if I build a rubric on here for my students, then I can override the 0 points after I build the rubric, and it just does it all in one full swoop for me. So I like to leave this blank here if I know that I'm adding a rubric, just because it's fewer clicks when I build the rubric and apply it. That's just me. You can add assignment groups if you want to. I just leave this as is. Points. If you don't want this to count towards final grade, you can check that box, but typically you probably want to have this count towards your final grade, so you can leave that empty. And then here is a key thing that I want to point out that is very different than what we've had on It's Learning. So when you build an assignment on Canvas, you have options here and how you want those submissions to be turned in by your students. So the benefit of this is that you have options for your students, but it's a little bit different in how you can configure these. So if you want your students to submit something to you and you want it to be online, then they're turning this into you on Canvas. This is the flexible tool to do that. If I were you, you have these options here and how you want those online assignments to get turned into you. Text entry sounds limiting, but it is the most flexible option out there. And I say that because a text entry assignment gives students this full toolbar here. It doesn't just give them words only or text only. It gives them this full toolbar, which means they can type out a response, they can add links, they can add pictures, they can record audio and video or upload audio and video. They can add and upload files. They can add Google Drive files as their response. They can add YouTube videos. They have all of these options here if you select text entry. If you select website URL, the only thing that students can submit is a link. If you select media recordings, the only thing that students will be able to do is record audio and video in Canvas. They won't be able to add any text entry or anything else to go along with it. If you select all of these things, then that works, but it shows up as separate little windows here for students when they go to submit it. And I will show you that here in a second. Student annotation allows you to select a file, which is typically the format for this has to be a PDF or a Word file. You can't attach a Google file here. And what that allows you to do is when students go to do this assignment, it gives them a copy of that PDF and they have annotation tools like markers and highlighters, and they can mark it up. So that can be a really helpful thing if maybe you're having students do a map assignment where they have to circle parts of a map or parts of a cell, something along those lines. This gives them the option to do that. If you select file uploads, then the only thing that students will be able to do for this assignment is upload a file that's saved on their device. And that is not a Google file. That is purely uploading something that's saved locally on the device, like a Word file or a PDF, which is not necessarily something that our students are doing on Chromebooks. So I would avoid file uploads if I were you. The other options that are on here are on paper, which means that students submit something to you. So really what this assignment does is a way for you to grade and provide feedback all within Canvas. External tool, I'll get to that in a second. No submission means that students just fly through this. So if you want this to be counted as classwork, then maybe you do no submission. And in your Canvas gradebook later on, you go through and you just enter scores there. The benefit of building an assignment and having it flagged as being no submission and on paper is that, especially for our middle school and high school staff, Canvas can really act as your grade book for essentially everything. You can pair your PowerTeacher Pro gradebook with Canvas, and when you do that, your Canvas will sync nightly. You can also do manual syncs at any point in time if you would like, but it will sync daily or whenever you want. And basically, if you have everything in Canvas, then everything will be reflected in PowerSchool. If you don't put all of your assignments in Canvas, then there's going to be a mismatch. Like if I only put my homework assignments on Canvas, but none of my classwork assignments are in Canvas, those are in PowerTeacher Pro, then it might be a little bit confusing for iGrad coaches, students, and families if they go onto Canvas and they see, well, on here it says that there's 300 points possible, but on PowerTeacher Pro it says that there's 500 points possible in the course. So that's just a tip for you. It's really up to you and how you would like to manage this, but it could be easy to have a lot of alignment between Canvas and PowerTeacher Pro and Parent Portal if everything is on Canvas. But again, that's just up to you, personal preference on what you would like to do. So I do want to show you what it looks like for if you select online and what these different options look like. So I'm going to actually open a new window here where I've set this up. So I have a sample assignment that I have built here already. And the way that this assignment looks is I've typed out some information and things here, lots of instructions, examples. And on this one, I selected multiple boxes, and that's not something that I would probably do again. But I wanted to show you what it looks like if you select all of these different choices. What I would always select is just text entry because that gives the whole rich content editor to students. If you select all of those boxes, then when students go to answer this assignment, they can still see the rubric and things that I put there. They'll click Start Assignment. It's always at the top of the page. And when students start the assignment, they see these different options here. So technically, students can upload different things, but if you just select text entry, then students have this whole toolbar here by default. And this is what it looks like with file upload, website URL. These are just some of the examples I wanted to show you. So if you want to reduce confusion for students and don't have them clicking through these different things, if you select text entry, they have all of these options available. It's just under this little 3-dot menu. So that was just a tip that I wanted to share, is that text entry provides the most options with the least amount of confusion and clicks for you as the teacher and your students. So what I was just doing in the other tab was I was actually toggling into student view, which is super helpful for you to do if you ever want to test drive your assignments, and I'll show you more of that in a second. The other thing I wanted to show you is that a lot of you love to use the feature on It's Learning where you could attach a Google file to an It's Learning assignment, and then it would create copies of that assignment for students. It would name it after the student, and then it remembered the Google attachment. And so when students went to submit it, they didn't have to dig through the Google Drive, kept it there, they attached it, and that was it. You can create those copies of Google files on Canvas too, just a slightly different process than before. So if you were wanting to attach a Google file to a Canvas assignment so it makes copies for students, what you're going to do is on this submission type, you're going to select External Tool, and I'm going to click Find, and then I'm going to select this Google Assignments LTI. And the first time you select this, it's probably going to ask you for permission to Google Drive, and you will want to grant permission and click Continue. If you don't give permission, it is going to error out and you won't be able to do a whole lot at all. All right, so this is a key difference here, and maybe where it looks very different than It's Learning. So after you have given permission here, it brings you to this screen. So this is where you will attach a Google file to the assignment from your drive. So if you already have one made, this is where you find it and you attach it. Technically, if you want, you can create one from here as well. So if you're just building this on the fly, you can technically do that. You don't have to have it built already, but I want to attach one I made already. The next window down here is just deciding on how you want to grade this assignment. I would strongly recommend that you use the Canvas Speed Grader because this allows you to use Canvas rubrics, and this is what's going to connect with the PowerTeacher Pro Gradebook for middle school and high school. If you do Google assignments, it just makes it a very minimalist look when you go to provide feedback, and you can't use the Canvas Speed Grader rubric feature, and it just makes it a little bit trickier to grade. So that's what I would opt, or what I would recommend that you use is Canvas Speed Grader. So here I'm going to select Attach, or if you're creating something on the fly, you can click Create, but I'll select Attach, and we're going to select a Google file, and we're going to have it make copies of that for the student. And it brings everything. So what I'm going to do is select a Google Doc here, and let's imagine like this is a template note-taking sheet for my students. So I'll select Add. All right, and it says each student will get a copy. A unique difference here between Canvas and It's Learning is on It's Learning, there's a drop-down menu you have to select. If you wanted to make a copy, you have to select that. If you attach a Google assignment right here, it is only going to make a copy of that student. You can't attach one to be view only. If you want something to be view only, that is where you do that on the actual instructions for the assignment itself, not within this external submission tool. This is purely for giving students a copy of that tool. So if I select it, Canvas Speed Grader is next, and click Create, it is going to save our changes here. It's going to close that window. It attached it. We're just going to click Select. And you'll know that it worked if it doesn't show you an error message. And if it shows like a little URL here, then that means that, all right, it has started to build that assignment for me. So I've attached a Google file. And I will show you an example of that here in a second. All right. In terms of submission attempts, you can allow unlimited, limited, just controls the number of times students can do it. If you want this to be syncing to PowerSchool, which you probably do, then you'll check this box. We don't have students in there now, so it's okay if you select it. It won't show up anywhere in your gradebook. And you can decide who you want this to be assigned to. So you can assign it to everyone is what it has by default, but you can clear that if you want. You can assign it to individual students if you would like. Whenever we have Canvas, we have students in the Canvas platform, it's going to show all of your different class periods. So my elementary specials teachers, the middle school and high school teachers, you will be able to assign it for specific class periods or mods or elementary by teacher if you would like. The next thing is when you decide when it is due. So if I want this to be due tomorrow, I can select it and I can decide when it's available to students. So if you want this to go live on a certain date, you have this. If you want it to be available until a certain date, this just makes it so that you can't have any late submissions, essentially. If you don't select a date here for until, then students can still submit it, but it will be flagged as a late submission when you go to grade it. If I click add, I can add other people to assign it to. So if I want to have different due dates for different groups, I'm thinking about our high school teachers and block schedule. If I want to assign this to my A day students and it's due on Thursday, but for my B day students, it's due on a Friday, I can totally do that from this menu. And I can even decide when it's available to them as well. So super helpful thing here for you in managing that and keeping students kind of on track. So that is just an example of how you add a Google file to the assignment. And I will say that if you ever want to get a preview of your assignment, it's super easy to toggle into student view at any point in time. I can click save and publish, and then I can move into student view and look at this. But the next thing I want to do is just show you a rubric on Canvas. And I'm actually going to delete this external tool here because while I was just saying that student view in Canvas is super helpful, the only thing you can't do in Canvas student view is submit an assignment that has a forced Google copy on it because it sees you as the creator of that assignment in your Google Drive file and it doesn't understand what's going on. However, if I want to do a assignment on Canvas and preview it, I can do it for any of the other types here. So I'm just going to make this assignment a text entry. We're going to set this up, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to click save. Or you can do save and publish if you want it to be active already, but I don't for this example. And there we go. So this has a due date. If I wanted to preview this assignment and actually complete it as a fake student in student view in my class, I can click student view. But the next thing I just want to show you is how you can add a rubric to an assignment and why that's super helpful. It makes it really easy whenever you want to go and grade it. So in order to add a rubric to the assignment, you have to have the assignment made first. You have to type out everything we just did and save it. And then it brings you this screen where you can click plus rubric to build it. If you want to build rubrics, the other way you can do it is over here on this menu. Elementary, you have this view as well. I can always go and build an assignment rubric here on the rubrics tab. Same thing, just a little plus button in the corner once I get there. All right. So if I'm here and I want to add a rubric to this assignment, it's super easy to do. I'll click the plus button for a rubric. If I already built a rubric, I can apply it here as well. If I want to select it, I can do find rubric and it pulls any rubric I've made. And I can also import them into this course if they exist in other courses. So you need to give it a title. So we're going to say this is my vocab rubric February. All right. And then I can type in some of my different criteria here. So I can set the scale. So for here, my criteria is maybe this is definitions. And I can add a description here if I want. If I don't want to add one, then I don't need to. And let's say my point range here is a 3. Add my description, and then I need to add more. 2. You decide what these titles are as well. And there are lots of sample rubrics out there too. So right. Right. So I have that there, and it's smart, and it figures out that once you put the full mark here, it makes the points over here. So if I want to add additional criteria, I can select that. I can duplicate what I already have. So if I want it to be similar and I only want to change a few words, I can duplicate this definitions one and then go through and edit that. Otherwise, I can start from scratch. The find outcome allows you to create similar outcomes, aka ways of measuring student progress in your course. If you import standards from the Indiana State Standards Library, which is the outcomes feature in your course, you can even measure progress related to those. For this example, I'm just going to leave it the way it is. All right. So I can go through and add even more criteria if I want. We're just going to leave it like this for now. For comments and pieces, if you don't want points on the rubric, you can remove those to where it's more of like a qualitative rubric. And what I would love to point out here is that if you want this to apply your rubric score and the max points possible for the rubric, for the assignment, total points possible, check this box. So you know how earlier I said that we just left this empty for 0 points because I knew I was going to attach a rubric? If I check this box, then it overwrites it and I don't have to worry about going back and fixing that myself. So if I click create rubric, it's going to ask me, well, you said the assignment was worth 0 points. What do you truly want it to be? The rubric score? And I'm going to say change it. And so now we see it updates it smart. It figured out that, okay, you want this to be worth 3 points because that's what your rubric shows. All right, so that is just showing you the way to add a rubric to an assignment. It's super easy. In a separate video, I will show you how you can use that for grading in the Canvas Speed Grader, which is going to be your new best friend. Okay, so if you ever want to see a sample of what this assignment looks like, we're going to toggle into Student View, and this is another helpful resource. If you ever are curious about your course, so want to preview and test drive things, in Student View on Canvas, you can view your content, you can do quizzes, you can do assignments. You just can't do an assignment where there is a Google attachment on the assignment. All right, so we are going to, oh, I didn't publish my assignment. I forgot to do that. So other important thing here is after you build an assignment, if you actually want students to be able to do it, you need to publish it. Okay, so, and it's really easy. Publish, there we go. Or you can publish it from within the module itself. So we are going to go back into Student View. And whenever I'm here, I see the instructions. I made my rubric visible to students in my settings, but you can't technically hide it if you would want. I would think it'd be helpful for them to see it. But I'll click Start Assignment. All right, and like I said, I selected that text entry, but if you look, we have all of these different options here. So as a student, I can attach virtually anything and everything I want to this assignment. All right, pretty awesome and fantastic. So I can see the rubric there below. I can add things if I want, links and whatnot. I can click Submit. Comments here allows you to add a comment for your teacher so they get a notification. So if you're saying, I'm sorry I turned this in late, or I made the revisions after you gave me suggestions, this is where you can let the teacher know, and it doesn't actually show up as part of the assignments itself. It shows up off to the side when the teacher goes and grades. But I'll click Submit. All right, and I'm going to leave Student View now. And when the students submit things on time, they do get the little confetti, which is kind of cool. But I will leave Student View so I can show you what this looks like. So now that we have had a student, aka us in Student View, submit the assignment, if you look over here, now we can use Speed Grader. Now we can grade and look at these submissions. So it's super fun to use Student View to test drive your assignments in Canvas. And if you were ever wondering, well, what can I do for some of these courses where, I want to add a Google assignment and I want to see what that looks like for students. I want to see how it makes copies for them. My tip to you would be to have a colleague access your course, and you can put them in there as a student and they can do your assignment as a student so you can see what that looks like for them. So this is the assignment tool in Canvas. I know this is quite a bit different than what it was on It's Learning, but there are some pretty awesome features here and wonderful ways to use the rubric feature in here to give feedback to students. I will show you more on how to use the speed grader on Canvas in our tip for tomorrow. But otherwise, have fun with the assignment tool and let me know if you have questions.